Uh, I see the work that these guys are doing each and every day. I've been seeing the work they've been doing for the last 2 years and just waiting for the time where this gets brought back over to the PU. We're here.
Star Citizen's hyped up new update has moved to wider testing, and the release is imminent within the coming weeks. We know it's going to change a lot of how we interact with the game itself, as it brings with it a lot more of the polished gameplay systems from Squadron 42 that have been working over the last few years. But it also leaked out some of the most anticipated changes it had, taking away a lot of the excitement for many players. But with the changes that persist, many habits will need to be broken, and many new luxuries will be discovered. From the flight model changing how you fight and travel, to the map system simplifying getting around, just about everything will be affected. However, the servers are having trouble running the PTU, and new gameplay changes have rattled some of the community. Here are my initial thoughts surrounding 323's biggest features. If you'd like to go more in depth, check out my recent podcast episodes and streams covering the update here on YouTube. And thank you for coming to my Tomato Talk. I've had some time over the past couple weeks, including my recent 10-hour session in Crash Recovery Land, getting some hands-on with 323. Right away, the most noticeable improvements to Star Citizen are the UI tweaks. Yes, the character customizer is fantastic, but we'll get to that later. As soon as you load into the game in 323, you're greeted by some of the new UI elements. While visuals are upgraded and looking much better, it's the audio cues, I think, that are starting to bring a more tactile and polished feel to the game. If I turn down other effects, you can hear more audio cues that really help sell the experience. These small details might not seem significant, but it's a large part of what I think will make the game feel better starting with 323, and something you'll notice a lot of. The overall HUD has improved quite a bit as well, with better notification placement, more informative personal information, mission objectives, and a minimap. The nice touch is that this interface changes noticeably when you take your helmet off. Still probably not enough to save me though. I had no problems with the HUD other than notifications looking a bit unfinished, as did some of the AR markers, which are nice and bright, more readable and adding variety to the game, but I think they still need some work. In the ship, things are mostly the same with some small changes to quantum and your speed controls due to master modes. Mainly you'll need to make sure to pay attention to your flight and operation modes above your throttle, and there are some small tweaks to cruise control. While we're talking UI, let's tackle that star map. Probably the single most effective improvement that could be made to the game, the star map is completely new. Out with the old, barely responsive Flash-based interface, and in with the animative, intuitive, and very responsive star map that handles all navigation from jumping throughout and in between star systems to navigating along your friend's ship. The minimap, interior map, local map, and the star map are all one app, sharing information amongst each other and giving you incredibly easy navigation tools like route tracking, text search, and setting custom waypoints on the local map. I'm sure I'm not alone in my disappointment that these waypoints don't apply to free space and can't be shared with others just yet, but at this point we are likely one step removed. And that is the beginning of a true exploration profession. The map itself works great in all formats. In my experience, it's a definitive upgrade from what we had before, even tracks transit and doors in real time. And while I've got plenty to say about the use of the minimap and local map system, I do really like the style. They pulled it off in my opinion, but I'd like to use it in more environments to be really sure. So ultimately the map, while a great addition bringing a lot of new convenience and functionality to the game, is still a sign of more to come. The same map is also used in the engineering interface. There's a lot to say about engineering, and I'm not even going to scratch the surface here, but so far I find it to be what I expect in its first version. What I mean by that is we can't currently control gravity, life support, full power management, ship pre-tuning, proper component repair, or fire management. What we have initially is the ability to monitor and divert power between fuses, manipulate room and door control systems, run around replacing fuses, and repair components with a simple button push. This little bit we have can feel a bit monotonous at times, and is pretty overwhelming in the midst of battle. It's a lot to take in, but not a lot to necessarily do just yet. I tried this out with Astropub for a while in our own session, and after a few attempts at managing a ship, we started to get a good back and forth of communication going, and it really did feel like the team effort between a mechanic and a manager. But there is a lot of tidying up that needs to be done. A cool aspect of this system is that ballistic weapons can penetrate the shields and hull to score points on components, and as damage is done to fuses, they will blow off, cutting off power to that part of the ship. Seeing the damage actually translate from the outside of the ship to the properly placed components and fuses inside felt like a long time coming, and I'm glad to see it working. This is one of the bigger parts of the game for me personally, so I'll have a lot more to say on this in the coming weeks and months. Back to UI though, while I love what they've done with the mobiGlas, the design isn't my favorite. The menu itself is much more consistent, intuitive, and welcoming, but the overall style of the lines isn't quite with that flat style that I'm more appreciative of. The animations do give a tactile feel though and keep things interesting. The apps provided, like the health app, give us a good sign of more to come and what's important, and even the slight swing of the menu reminds you it's an active part of the actual game rather than just a static menu. Even the doubled up text seems to be toned down quite a bit, but ultimately I'm more a fan of flat design, so we'll see if this grows on me. The looting screen they've brought in is nice. It's snappy, it includes that quality feel I mentioned earlier, and makes several processes in the game much more fun. Right now it's still used with the inventory, which remains unchanged due to the item banks, freight elevators, and persistent hangars being delayed from the patch, so the great bag of holding remains for now, alongside the looting UI. Also, the idea behind the design for this is a bit weird to me considering this is exactly how the mobiGlas could probably have worked, but instead it's attached to your wrist. The dynamic crosshair is actually kinda cool in my opinion, but if you don't enjoy it, you can turn it off. And as you can see here, there are plenty of helmets that don't actually have it. Other FPS features so far seem to be doing a good job of helping gameplay flow as well, such as backpack reloading and ammo repooling, but they mostly didn't work for me due to server performance at the time, which has been the main problem with this patch so far. Everything takes a long time to happen. The servers are overloaded, and I hate to say it, but we really need server meshing. Ultimately, I'm going to need longer with the FPS features to really judge how much I like them. The clouds look incredible at the new quality level that's been added to the game. Here they are at medium, high, and reference quality. You can see very clearly where the improvements are in the fringes of the clouds and the overall smoothness and shape. EVA Tier 2 is easily one of the most successful feature launches CIG has had. I only put it below the tractor beam because that was a solid first attempt, whereas this is the second EVA system. As of now, players can fly in all directions in a horizontal position to avoid knocking into things. Forward momentum is reasonably conserved as you kind of fly decoupled. Transitions are easy and smooth, and you have a full range of motion in your view when flying around. It all works pretty perfect for me every time, and I look forward to seeing how this expands zero-G gameplay with a more reliable system like this. And the character customizer. It's good. I like it. It allows you to sculpt your face or specifically pull features from other models. It also gives us way more control over hair, skin quality, and other features. Soon it'll include tattoos and piercings, and throughout the game we'll have access to cybernetics. But for now we have a solid, polished, enjoyable creator that lets us save and export our characters as well. My main gripe with it right now is that there are simply not enough heads and features to make the sculpting intuitive. I'm pretty bad at these tools, so I think I make for a good test case, and I find it frustrating when I want to sculpt one specific part of the face, but end up shifting a completely different feature in the meantime. I'm not sure if this is integral to the system, or due to a lack of various facial features that could meld together better, but this part of the system still feels like it has a ways to go before people like me can make the character they're going for. In some places, the UI was working. In other places, it was still the old system. Specifically, the shopping UI still has some problems with placement, though I do enjoy the way it adjusts based on where you're standing. These little UI problems may be figured out by live, but specifically, the little inconsistencies on things like elevators does still show signs that this is a system in flux. It's not going to feel super polished, but it's definitely a step up, and it still could mean we have some outdated UI elements in 3.23. The real bad of this patch so far are the servers. While they've improved since the PTU started, the amount of desync there is between action and result is painful. That's not to say it won't get better, but that replication layer separation is likely to be a source of some instability with this update, despite its fantastic ability to keep us from crashing out when a server dies. and that might not be true, but it is possible. Ultimately, this is what kills the experience for me right now, and I think most other people. As we move through PTU testing, I still find this being an issue at times, especially with transit, and I really hope this problem doesn't make it to live. It could also mean that the replication layer separation plan for this update is still not quite ready though, and may need to be put off to the next update. This would be the second major delay for the system, and it could mean continued server crashes kicking you out of the PU for the foreseeable future. I have only had a couple of chances to see the new distribution centers, which are huge and offer a lot of space to move around, but also generally ended with me falling through the floor. They're impressive locations, but with the instability surrounding the servers and these locations themselves, I really haven't been able to run any of the new missions. They're pretty big compared to all the rest of the locations in the game. They may even have more playable space than in the cities, and they come with several new missions both in and around the locations. Friend of the channel Morphologist actually did a showcase of some of the nice missions in the surrounding areas, but not quite inside, though I've heard there's some nice interior missions as well. I'm hoping to get out to these locations soon, and hopefully they do make it into 3.23 because as of now, they're not confirmed for the patch just yet. So they may get pushed, but we'll probably hear more about that in the coming roadmap roundup on Wednesday. Obviously then, there are the delays. With Star Citizen, there are bound to always be some, and this update did a good job of retaining most of its features. But nobody is missing that the primarily PU-focused changes are the ones that have been delayed. And it leaves folks wondering how development will continue after 3.23 and the majority of Squadron 42 updates. Hopefully, a possible 3.23.2 is upon us in June. Master modes is good and bad. I think the philosophy behind it is sound. Splitting up flight modes is a cool way to do several things, including separating what could be the default flight mode from one that always has people thinking they're going to be shot. If every player normally has weapons turned off, it makes it a lot easier to know who's being aggressive. It also sets us up for the new quantum travel system, including quantum boost, and it makes players make specific choices surrounding their intentions when flying. That being said, this change is just jarring to say the least, and depending on how they continue to fine-tune it, this could go different ways. With changeover times decreasing and different mechanics being tinkered with, it appears nothing is even close to being set in stone, so we'll check back later on how things are going. But ultimately, this artificial speed limit it puts on ships in certain scenarios feels very much like hover mode, like something that's taking choice away from you and forcing you into doing something else. While this might be necessary for the game balance, I do feel like it butts up against other things in the game like control surfaces, VTOL systems, and the character features that we have to deal with in the game. If you do want to hear more discussion on this topic though, make sure to check out my podcast episode featuring Yogi Klatt and Avenger 1 on the topic from a few weeks ago. 3.23 is not as major an update as we'd hoped earlier in the year. However, the features missing are still in the 3.23 branch, likely within a couple of months of the first. And with things like upscaling support like DLSS and FSR, new fauna on some planets, the overall better lighting you've probably noticed throughout this video, reputation updates, the new water physics simulation, and the economy update that I didn't go over here in combination with all of this Squadron 42 work coming in to begin the premature glow up to 4.0 standards, it ends up being a successful update for the game that most players will probably appreciate. The quality of life is taking a huge step up with 3.23. Possibly not enough for people who have stepped away to come back from their long hiatus, but if you left because the star map doesn't work well or because the HUD is annoying, or maybe even because you wanted better looking clouds, then you might actually find it in this patch. And the amount of quality of life here I think will improve the experience for all the people who already are playing. So while it's not a huge game-changing shift for the game, it is part of the game-changing year it seems, and I look forward to seeing what follows this up. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed these first impressions, something I'm going to start to do, talk more about the actual game we're playing. And if you'd like to see me playing the game, you can also join the live streams I have, or check out our new gameplay channel Space Tomato Plays. And if you'd like to support what we're doing, you can become a YouTube channel member down below or sign up on Patreon to get exclusive videos every month, your name on our referral code randomizer, private live podcasts, and more. Whatever you decide to do, I hope you learned something new in this video, and I'll catch you in the next.